Sleepless nights, empty bellies, their skin a canvas of purple and blue. You care that they are born, but not what they are born into.
Abortion. It's a very controversial subject. It has been for a very, very, very long time, the subject of heated debate. But this video isn't about abortion, pro-life or pro-choice. This video is about a different aspect of it, and one I feel is important that light be shed upon it, because a lot of people don't realize it, and maybe if they did realize the extent of it, they might not continue to suggest those 7 words I often see written down and spoken concerning the heated debate. Just put the baby up for adoption. Every time I hear those words or see them written, I cringe. There's a reason for that. A lot of you probably think that when a child is born, there's a couple already waiting to adopt them. And they get adopted right away and they go off and hopefully they live a happy life. And that does happen, but that's rare. That's not what usually happens. What usually happens is the child winds up in the foster care program. Now, I'm not going to tell you anything out of books I've read or statistics or articles or research I've done. I'm going to talk to you from personal experience of being a product of that system, as I was in the foster care system. I went into that system in the late 50s, and I'm sorry to say that not a single thing about it has changed since then. If anything, it's worse than it was back then, and it was probably just as bad before then. But what you may not realize is what most of us go through in the foster care program. No child should ever have to go through that, to suffer like that. Those of us that remain in the system for years and years. Some of us get adopted right away, but even a month in that system can cause irreparable damage. A lot of us don't survive it. Some of us never come out of that system. We just disappear. It's covered up. No one knows. Because once we go in that system, we're out of sight. We're out of mind. We are the forgotten ones. Well, a lot of people that come out of that system, they become criminals, alcoholics, drug addicts, child abusers themselves, pedophiles, serial killers. A lot of us commit suicide. A lot of us wind up in mental health institutions for the rest of our lives. In my case, I went into the system shortly after I was born in the late 50s. I wasn't adopted until I was 9.5 years old. It was a very long and hard road. They say your face shows what your life has been like, and as you can tell by looking at mine, it's been a very long and hard one. Well, I discussed making this video with my youngest daughter and my oldest granddaughter at length, and both of them agreed that this was a good thing to do, to get this out there so that people can become aware of just how very bad the foster care program is, and that putting any child in that system is not a good thing. When somebody might say, well, at least you had a chance at a life, you have no idea what you're saying. Because what do you consider a life? Going from one moment to the next, taking your next breath, lying in bed at night, waiting for the sound of the men coming to take you out to do the things that they do. Is that living? And then when I was 9, I got adopted. And I'm not going to address adoptive couples. That's a whole another issue. This is just about foster care. But what I went through had very far-reaching and detrimental effects that would last for years. It adversely affected every relationship I would have for all the way up until I was 51 years old. It would affect every romantic relationship I had. It would affect the relationship I had with my children, my grandchildren, my friends, my adopted family, virtually everyone I came in contact with. Because for years I was filled with rage and hatred and violence. I was vindictive. I hated everyone and I hated the world for being there. And I didn't care about anything or anyone, at least of all myself. Now I could have been one of the ones that committed suicide. Lord knows I tried 9 times before the age of 21, but I failed. I even said to myself, I can't even kill myself right. I had no self-esteem, none whatsoever. And I raged and reeled in my madness. As time went on, in my teens I became an alcoholic and a substance abuser. I was very promiscuous. I was on the road to self-destruction. Like I said, I didn't care. And my poor parents, when they got me, they thought they were getting this cute little girl. When what they were really getting was a monster. And what they had to go through with me. I feel badly about it, what I put them through. I put them through hell on earth, but they never gave up on me. I'm grateful for that. But neither one of them lived long enough to see me become the person that I am today. When they left this world, I was still a monster. And my children, they were affected by it. They suffered from it. Not only from my mental health issues, but medical conditions that were passed on to them. Who knew? I went and tried to get help. And the area of the country I was living was a really bad place for that, because all they wanted to do was medicate me. And the more medicines they tried, the worse it got. And I was misdiagnosed horribly. The medications didn't work because I didn't have what they said I had. But they weren't interested in curing me. They just wanted to dope me up and make more money. And my children had to go through that too, because it fundamentally changed who I was. And there were times when my rage would come roiling to the surface, and I would, blind to rage, and utterly destroy the room I was in. The men in my life might make one little mistake, and it would trigger, that rage would come boiling to the surface, and I would throw that rage at them and make them pay for everything those men had done to me in the past. This was the kind of person I was. And I didn't get help until I was 49 years old, and I went to the other side of the country. And I was lucky enough to find a clinical therapist who knew exactly what she was doing, and in 3 years' time placed me into a state of recovery with no medication whatsoever. Now, all those mental health issues that they claimed I had are gone. I still have a physical medical condition that I'll always have due to the neglect I suffered, and I'll always have post-traumatic stress. I no longer call it a disorder because it's only a disorder if it adversely affects your life. And it doesn't affect my life anymore. I no longer have flashbacks because that therapist taught me how to control them. But before that, I had them all the time, sometimes daily. And it's a nightmare. So I want you to think about it when you just blithely say, just put the baby up for adoption and you wipe your hands off and walk off feeling good about yourself because, yay, you saved a baby. Well, I have to tell you something. I don't have any memory of being in my mother's womb, none whatsoever. But I do have memories of the years I spent in the foster care program. And that's where most of us go. Most of us wind up in that system. And most of us are going to suffer for years and years, and some of us never get help like I did. The statistics prove out that most of us don't. Most of us go the other way. I could have become a murderer. I could have become dead. I could have become a streetwalker, a street person in a mental institution for the rest of my life. But that's not what happened. And then people say, well, yeah, but then if you didn't go through all that, you wouldn't be who you are today, the strong, loving person, and you wouldn't have had your children and grandchildren. And you know what? That's an emotional argument that's used to win the point in favor in your debate. Okay? I know lots of people who are wonderful, loving, good people, and strong, who did not have to get there by that road. I'm sure my children would have much rather not have had to deal with the things they had to deal with and the things that they had to struggle with in their adult life because of what they went through with me, because of what I went through back there. So, in order for me to really push it home what I'm talking about, I'm going to have to take you back there where the nightmares play and the monsters are born. The closet. I'm in the closet again. Shh, 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 shh. Be very, very quiet. As if you're very quiet, they might forget that you're here. But I have to go to the bathroom. No, don't go to the bathroom. You know what'll happen. You'll get the cold shower, and then the straps, and then no supper. You'll have to go to sleep with no supper. Don't go to the bathroom. Hold it in, hold it in, hold it in. Mommy. Was a little girl. And the little girl went to stay at the woman's house. So the woman was so wonderful to her. She bought her nice things. She took her to do fun things, played games with her, showed her love and compassion. She got the little girl to trust her. And it was all going so well. And then one day, the little girl found her head in a vice-like grip, with a hot, wet, hairy mass being mashed against her mouth, over and over again. And sometimes she couldn't breathe, and at other times when she could breathe, the smell was so bad that it made her stomach lurch and she wanted to vomit, but she knew she couldn't vomit because then maybe she couldn't breathe. She'd suffocate and die. Little girl endured it. She held the vomit down. She endured it. And the next thing she knew, the woman was holding her in her embrace, rocking her, telling her everything was going to be okay, stroking her hair and saying that they would have many more wonderful times together. But the little girl's heart had already crumbled, her trust had shattered, and her mind had shut off completely to the rest of the words that the woman would say. Her mind had gone somewhere else, so she didn't have to feel the pain, the betrayal. The little girl stood at the window, looking out at the dark night. It was raining, and the rain was pattering against the dark glass, and the lightning would bolt across the sky, and she could see the water rivulets. She was alone in the house except for the boy that stood beside her. They'd been told to stand at the window and not to move, because they knew if they turned and looked at the shadowy forms in the room behind them, that the objects would come to life and eat them. And so they stood, looking out the window. The little boy took hold of her hand, and the little girl made the sound that ghosts make, and the little boy trembled. The little girl squeezed his hand, and they stood looking out at the rain on a dark and stormy night, waiting, just waiting. The little girl was being rushed down the street. A woman was holding her hand. It was cold. It was so cold. Her feet hurt, and she looked down to see there was snow everywhere on the ground, but she was wearing shorts and flip-flops on her feet, and her toes were hurting so bad. And the woman kept urging her, "Go faster, faster, hurry before he catches us." And she dragged the little girl along, and she kept telling her, "Don't look back, don't look back." But the little girl did look back, and what she saw froze her heart and would stay in her mind forever, as a giant of a man was taking the head of the little boy that she knew as her brother, and was slamming his face into the snow over and over and over again. And the woman rushed into the building, pulled a little girl through a door and into a room with gray walls that were cracked, peeling. Told her to go and sit on the couch. There was not much in the room. There was a ceiling-to-floor lamp, the couch, and a circular rug in the middle, and that was all. The little girl sat there and waited. The door slammed open, and the giant man raged in, and he threw the little boy across the floor, and he landed on the round rug and stormed into the kitchen. The little girl looked at the boy, and the boy's face was just so red, and you could tell he was freezing because he was trembling all over, and he was screaming so hard that no sound came out of his little mouth. And the girl wanted to go to the boy. She wanted to comfort him, but she knew she couldn't. She knew if she moved from the couch that she would be next. So she watched the little boy scream in silent terror. This is the land where the monsters were born. These are the memories. These are the times. Be quiet. Don't move and don't cry. But it hurts. Don't move. Don't cry. That is as much as I can reveal at this time. I dreaded making this video because I would have to go back into that pit to relive some of it in order to tell you. So you would understand. Please believe me. Stop saying those words. Just put the baby up for adoption is not a viable option. Find another answer, another solution, another suggestion. I'm not asking you to like this video. I'm not asking you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. But I am going to tag every adult on my friends list, even if you're already subscribed, just in case you don't get a notification. What I am going to ask you to do is to share this video. Please share this video so that your friends will see it and maybe pass it on to others. Other people will understand that this is an aspect of that debate that needs to be removed, at least until the foster care program is changed. I don't see that happening. Thank you.